I dropped my wife off at the airport at 6 in the morning. She kissed me on the cheek, told me she loved me, and rolled her carry-on toward the terminal. Another business conference, another weekend alone with my daughter Emma. At 63 years old, I'd gotten used to these routines after 30 years of marriage. What I wasn't prepared for was the text message I received 10 minutes later, while still on the highway heading home. It was from Emma, my 8-year-old daughter. She was supposed to be asleep. "Dad, don't go home. I know what Mom is planning." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I almost laughed. Kids and their imagination, right? But something in my gut twisted. Emma wasn't the type to joke about something like this. She was mature for her age, serious, the kind of kid who asked uncomfortable questions and expected real answers. I pulled over at a rest stop and called her. She picked up on the first ring, her voice barely above a whisper. "Emma? Sweetie, what's going on?" "Dad, I heard Mom talking to Uncle Richard last night. They think I was asleep, but I wasn't. They were in the kitchen, and I heard everything through my baby monitor. Dad, they're planning something really bad. My brother-in-law, Richard, the man I'd lent $15,000 to last year when his construction business went under, the man who still hadn't paid me back." "What did you hear, honey?" "They said something about an accident, about the insurance money. And then Uncle Richard said, 'What about Emma?' And Mom said," her voice cracked, "Mom said, 'Collateral damage.'" The coffee I'd drunk that morning turned to acid in my stomach. Collateral damage. My daughter, my little girl with her serious eyes, and her collection of coding books. "Where are you right now?" "I'm hiding in my closet." "Dad, I'm scared. Are you coming back?" "No," I said, my mind racing. "Listen to me very carefully. I want you to pack a small bag. Just clothes for a few days, your toothbrush, and your laptop. Can you do that?" "Yes." "Good. I'm going to call someone I trust, and she's going to come get you. Her name is Rachel. She used to work with me at the firm before I retired. You're going to go with her, okay?" "Okay." Emma's voice was steadier now. "Dad, I'm sorry I snooped. I know the baby monitor is supposed to be turned off, but I was using it to listen to music, and—" "You did exactly right." I cut her off. "You saved us both, Emma. I love you so much." "I love you too, Daddy." I hung up and immediately called Rachel Martinez. 5 years ago, when I was still CFO of Nexus Pharmaceuticals, Rachel had been our head of security. She'd left to start her own private investigation firm, but we'd stayed in touch. She answered on the third ring. "Thomas? It's 6:30 in the morning. Rachel, I need your help. It's urgent." I told her everything. To her credit, she didn't waste time with questions or disbelief. This was why I'd always respected her. She dealt in facts, not emotions. "I'll pick up Emma in 20 minutes, she said. "Where should I take her?" "Your office, somewhere secure. And Rachel, don't let anyone follow you." "I never do." While I waited for Rachel to confirm Emma was safe, I drove to a motel 40 minutes outside the city. Not the kind of place anyone would look for a retired pharmaceutical executive. I paid cash for 3 nights and sat on the bed that smelled like industrial cleaner, trying to process what my 8-year-old daughter had just told me. My wife wanted me dead, for insurance money. And Richard, my wife's younger brother, was helping her. I'd taken out a substantial life insurance policy 5 years ago when I was still working. $3 million. At the time, it seemed like the responsible thing to do. Sarah had always been anxious about money, about what would happen if something happened to me. I'd thought I was being a good husband. Now I understood. She'd been planning this for years. My phone buzzed. "Rachel, package secured. She's safe. Where are you?" I sent her the motel address. She arrived 90 minutes later with Emma and a laptop bag slung over her shoulder. Emma ran to me, and I held her tight, feeling her small body shake. "It's okay," I murmured. "You're safe now. We're both safe." Rachel set up her laptop on the motel's small desk. "Okay," she said. "Tell me everything from the beginning. Don't leave anything out." I told her about Sarah, how we'd met 32 years ago, when I was just starting out as an accountant and she was a receptionist at the same firm. How we'd built a life together, how she'd always been a little distant, a little cold, but I'd attributed that to her difficult childhood. She'd grown up poor in rural Kentucky, raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs. She changed about 2 years ago, I said, thinking back. Around the time Richard's business failed, she became attentive, started asking about my health, my life insurance. She suggested I update my will, make sure everything was in order. I thought she was just being practical. Rachel's fingers flew across her keyboard. Richard Blackwood, right? Your brother-in-law? Yes. Prior arrests for check fraud, 18 years ago. Served 2 years. And... She paused, squinting at the screen. He's not actually her brother. The motel room went silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning unit. What? According to public records, Sarah Blackwood never had a brother. She was an only child. Richard Blackwood is 41, same age as Sarah. They both grew up in the same town in Kentucky. They attended the same high school. My mind reeled. Then who is he? Rachel clicked through more screens. Let me check something. Her expression darkened. Thomas. They were married 30 years ago. The marriage lasted less than a year before Richard went to prison for fraud. Divorce was finalized while he was incarcerated. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. She lied to me. For 30 years. It gets worse. Rachel pulled up more documents. Your life insurance policy, the one you signed 5 years ago? I remember signing it. Look at the date it was actually filed. She turned the laptop toward me. The policy had been updated 6 months ago. The beneficiary amount had been increased from 1 million to 3 million. And the signature at the bottom, my signature, looked almost right, but not quite. The T in Thomas was slightly off, the loop too small. She forged it, I whispered. Emma, who had been sitting quietly on the bed, spoke up. Dad, there's something else. Last week, I borrowed Mom's iPad to play a game. I saw her search history. She'd been Googling things like, how long does antifreeze poisoning take? And symptoms of heart attack versus poisoning. Rachel and I both turned to stare at her. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. I thought she was just researching for her book club. They read a lot of murder mysteries. Emma's face crumpled. I didn't think she'd actually. It's not your fault, Rachel said firmly. You're a kid. You're not supposed to think your mother is capable of murder. She turned back to me. Thomas, we need to get evidence. Real evidence. Something the police can use. How? Your house. There has to be something there. Documents, communications with Richard, maybe even the poison itself if she's planning to use it soon. But Sarah thinks I went home. If I show up now, you won't? Rachel smiled grimly. But I will. She explained her plan. She'd pose as a home security consultant, offering a free inspection. It was a tactic she'd used before in her PI work. Meanwhile, Emma would use her laptop to hack into Sarah's email account. I can do it, Emma said with confidence. Mom uses the same password for everything. I've seen her type it in. I wanted to say no. Wanted to say this was too dangerous, too much for a child. But Emma looked at me with those serious eyes, and I understood. She needed to help. She needed to feel like she had some control in this situation where her own mother had branded her collateral damage. Okay, I said. But you stay here with me while Rachel goes to the house. Rachel left 30 minutes later, wearing a professional blazer and carrying a clipboard. Emma and I sat on the motel bed, her small laptop balanced on her knees. Ready? She asked me. Ready. She typed in the email address, then the password, Blackwood1992. The inbox opened. There were hundreds of emails. Emma scrolled through them systematically, her young face set in concentration. Most were junk, newsletters, shopping confirmations. Then she stopped. Dad, look at this. It was an email thread between Sarah and Richard, going back 2 years. The subject line read, The Plan. I read through them, feeling sicker with each message. Sarah, I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of pretending. I want my life back. Richard, be patient. We need to set this up right. No suspicion. Sarah, he trusts me completely. The fool actually believes I love him. Richard, what about the kid? Sarah, she's a complication, but she's a weak link. She's attached to him. After he's gone, we'll say she needs stability, needs to stay with me. Then, later, accidents happen to children all the time. I had to stand up, had to walk away from the laptop before I put my fist through the wall. Emma watched me with wide eyes. Dad, keep reading, I managed. We need everything. She scrolled further. The emails laid out the entire plan. Sarah would report me missing. Richard would help stage it to look like I'd had a heart attack while hiking my usual Saturday activity. They'd dump my body in a remote part of the Angeles National Forest. With my history of high cholesterol and stress, nobody would question it. But they'd decided that was too risky. Too many variables. So they'd switched to Plan B, antifreeze in my coffee. A slow poisoning that would mimic kidney failure. By the time anyone figured out it was poison, it would be too late. And Sarah, the grieving widow, would collect $3 million. The timeline, according to the emails, was this weekend. Sarah had actually gone to the airport, but she'd never boarded the plane. She was staying at Richard's apartment across town, waiting for me to die. My phone buzzed. Rachel. Found it. Hidden in the garage, behind the paint cans. Antifreeze. Also found printed instructions on dosing. Taking photos now. I texted back. Get out of there. We have enough. 20 minutes later, Rachel was back at the motel. She spread out printed screenshots of Sarah's emails across the bed, along with photos of the antifreeze and a notebook with Sarah's handwriting, detailing the plan. This is enough for the police, Rachel said. We call them now, show them this, and they'll arrest her. But I shook my head. She'll deny everything. She'll say Richard forced her, or that I'm setting her up because I want a divorce. She's smart, Rachel. She's been planning this for years. She'll have a story ready. Then, what do you want to do? I looked at my daughter, then at the evidence spread out before us. I want her to confess, on record, somewhere the police can hear it. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You want to wear a wire? No. An idea was forming, dangerous but necessary. I want to come back from the dead. Here's what we did. I called Sarah's number from an unknown phone Rachel provided. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice breathy with fake concern. Hello? Sarah, it's me. Silence. Then, Thomas? Oh my God, where are you? I've been so worried. I got off the plane and you weren't answering your phone. She was good. If I hadn't known the truth, I would have believed her. I'm at Mercy Hospital, I lied. I got sick. Really sick. I think it's food poisoning, but the doctors want to run tests. Can you come? Another pause. I could almost hear her mind working. Of course. I'm coming right now. Which Mercy? There are 2 in the city. The one on Wilshire. Room 412. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up. I looked at Rachel. Will the police do it? Already arranged it. Detective Morrison owes me a favor. He'll have the room wired. You lie in the bed, play sick, and get her to talk. And if she doesn't confess, then we go with the evidence we have. But Thomas? Rachel's expression was serious. You need to be prepared. This woman you married, the mother of your child, she's not who you thought she was. Maybe she never was. I knew she was right. But part of me, the part that had loved Sarah for 3 decades, still hoped there was an explanation. Still hoped this was all some terrible misunderstanding. Mercy Hospital, as it turned out, was very accommodating when a private investigator with police connections explained the situation. Detective Morrison met us in the parking garage, a tired-looking man in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. You're sure about this? He asked me. I'm sure. They set me up in an actual hospital room, put me in a gown, hooked me up to monitors that weren't actually turned on. Rachel stayed in an adjacent room with Emma, watching through a camera feed. Detective Morrison was down the hall with 2 other officers. I lay in the bed and waited. Sarah arrived 30 minutes later. I heard her heels clicking down the corridor, heard her asking a nurse which room was Thomas Rutherford's. Then she was there, in the doorway, and I saw her face cycle through surprise, confusion, and something else. Something cold. Thomas. She rushed to my side, grabbed my hand. Oh my God, what happened? You look terrible. Kidney failure, I said weakly. The doctors don't know why. It came on so suddenly. Her hand tightened on mine. But you're going to be okay, right? They can treat it? They're not sure. Sarah, I need to tell you something, in case. I let my voice trail off. Don't say that. Don't even think it. I love you. I've always loved you. You and Emma, you're everything to me. For just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt? Regret? But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. I love you too, she said. There's one thing I don't understand, though. I shifted in the bed, watching her face. The doctors found something in my blood work. Ethylene glycol. That's antifreeze, Sarah. How did antifreeze get in my system? Her face went pale. I don't know. That's impossible. Is it? I sat up, pulling the monitors off. Because Emma heard you, Sarah. She heard you and Richard planning this. And we found the emails. We found everything. She jerked back, her hand flying to her mouth. I don't know what you're talking about. You're confused. The poisoning must be affecting your brain. Stop lying. The words came out harsher than I intended. I know Richard isn't your brother. I know you were married to him. I know you've been planning to kill me for 2 years. $3 million, Sarah. Was that the going rate for 30 years of marriage? She stared at me, and I watched her face transform. The mask of the concerned wife slipped away, replaced by something hard and calculating. You can't prove anything, she said quietly. Actually, we can. I gestured to the camera in the corner of the room. Detective? The door opened. Detective Morrison walked in, followed by 2 uniformed officers. Sarah's eyes went wide. Sarah Rutherford, you're under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. She didn't run, didn't scream. She just stood there, as they cuffed her hands behind her back, staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. You're making a mistake, she said. I'm his wife. I would never. Save it for your lawyer, Morrison said. We've got the emails, the antifreeze, your search history, and now this conversation on tape. It's over. As they led her out, she turned back to look at me one last time. You know what the funny thing is? She said. I did love you, at first. When we met, you were kind and stable, and everything Richard wasn't. But love doesn't pay the bills, Thomas. Love doesn't erase 30 years of scraping by, of watching you climb higher while I stayed home with a kid I never even wanted. Richard and I, we were meant to be together. We were the same. You were just a means to an end. Then she was gone, and I was alone in the hospital room that wasn't really treating me for anything, feeling like I'd aged 30 years in 3 days. Rachel came in with Emma a few minutes later. My daughter climbed onto the bed beside me, and I held her close. Is it over? She asked. It's over. But it wasn't. Not really. There was still the trial, still the media attention once word got out that a pharmaceutical executive had been nearly murdered by his wife and her ex-husband. Still, the process of rebuilding our lives. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Sarah and Richard had been sloppy, overconfident. They'd left digital trails everywhere. Richard cracked first, taking a plea deal in exchange for his testimony. He got 20 years. Sarah, who refused to show any remorse, got 35 to life. The detail that haunted me most came out during Richard's testimony. He admitted that they'd started the affair again 2 years after I married Sarah, that Emma was his daughter, not mine. They'd done the math. Richard had been released from prison 9 months before Emma was born. I looked at Emma, sitting beside me in the courtroom, and I felt nothing change. She was still my daughter. Biology didn't matter. She was the brave little girl who'd saved us both. She was mine. After the trial, we moved. Sold the house in Los Angeles. Too many bad memories. We ended up in Portland, Oregon, in a small house with a big yard. Emma started 4th grade at a new school. She joined the coding club, made friends. Rachel visited us regularly. She'd become a part of our family the Aunt Emma had never had. We'd have dinner together, and Rachel would tell stories about her latest cases, and Emma would show off her latest coding project. One evening, about a year after the trial, I was sitting on the back porch watching Emma play with the neighbor's dog when Rachel joined me. You doing okay? She asked. Yeah, I said, and meant it. You know what's strange? I spent 30 years building a life with someone who was lying to me the entire time. I thought I knew what family meant, what love meant. And now? I watched Emma laugh as the dog licked her face. Now I know that family isn't about blood. It's not even about time. It's about the people who show up, the people who choose you. She's a remarkable kid, Rachel said softly. She is. She saved my life. And you know what? Even knowing that Sarah isn't her biological mother, even knowing that Richard is her father, it doesn't change anything. Emma is my daughter. She'll always be my daughter. Rachel nodded. For what it's worth, you're doing a great job with her. I'm trying. That's all any of us can do, right? Try to be better than we were yesterday. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Inside the house, I could hear Emma's laptop chiming as she video called with her friends. I thought about the text message that had started it all. Dad, don't go home. 4 words that had saved 2 lives. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if Emma hadn't woken up that night, if she hadn't heard the conversation through her baby monitor, if she'd been less brave, less willing to trust her instincts. But she had woken up, she had been brave, and that made all the difference. Dad, Emma called from inside. Come look at this. I made a program that can detect phishing emails. I stood up, smiling. Coming, Rachel chuckled. She's going to work for the FBI someday, mark my words. Probably, I agreed, and she'll be amazing at it. As I walked back into the house, into the life we'd built from the ashes of betrayal and lies, I realized something. I was happy, genuinely, truly happy, in a way I'd never been with Sarah. Because this life, this family, was built on truth, on trust, on people who'd chosen each other and kept choosing each other every single day. Emma looked up from her laptop as I entered, her face glowing with excitement about her latest creation. My daughter, not by blood but by choice, by love, by every definition that mattered. What do you think? She asked, showing me lines of code I barely understood. I think you're brilliant, I said, kissing the top of her head. I think I'm the luckiest father in the world. And in that moment, in that small house in Portland, with the girl who'd saved my life and the friend who'd helped me save myself, I knew it was true. The story could have ended differently. Sarah and Richard could have succeeded. Emma could have been collateral damage, as planned. I could have died in that house, poisoned slowly over days while my wife played the concerned spouse. But stories don't always end the way the villains plan. Sometimes the heroes are 8-year-old girls who refuse to sleep when they should. Sometimes justice actually prevails. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born with. And sometimes, when you lose everything you thought you had, you discover what you actually need. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I'd love to know. Because wherever you are, whatever time it is, I hope you remember this. Trust your instincts. Believe the people who love you, and never underestimate the courage of a child who knows something is wrong. My name is Thomas Rutherford. I'm 63 years old, and this is the story of how my daughter saved my life. Choose the people who choose you. That's the lesson I learned. That's what I want you to take away from this, because in the end, that's all that matters.